Hey, before we start, take a second. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you want more of this weird little corner of bedtime history. And drop a comment. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I don't know why it's so satisfying to read where people are watching from at 2:37 a.m., but it is. All right, get comfortable. Blanket over your shoulders. Dim the lights. Maybe put your phone on Do Not Disturb. And if you're still wearing jeans for some reason, please stop doing that to yourself. Take a deep breath. Let's go back. Not back to castles and kings, not even back to the Aztec Empire or the glory days of Cahokia, though we'll swing past them soon enough. No, tonight we're heading somewhere colder, harsher, hungrier. Welcome to early New England. And congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1611, but not as a colonist. No powdered wigs, no sad pilgrim hats, and no buckled shoes. You are a regular person, living on the eastern woodlands of what's now called New England, long before anyone called it that. You belong to one of the many Algonquian-speaking tribes who've lived here for generations. Your community has deep roots, carefully balanced relationships with land, water, and sky, and absolutely no sympathy for your modern-day avocado toast cravings. The good news? You're not alone. The bad news? You are awake, and your stomach is already growling. Again. Because here, food isn't just a part of life. It is the entire point of life. It's the main activity, the background noise, and the endless daily challenge. You don't live to eat. You eat to survive. Barely. It's late fall, or early winter, or what used to be called November before calendars. Your people don't measure time by numbered squares or work weeks. You measure it by when the rivers freeze, when the snow sticks, when the deer thin out, and when the hunger gets louder than the wind. And right now, the hunger is winning. You sleep in a wet wool cocoon that passes for a blanket, on a raised mat of woven bark and furs inside a dome-shaped wettis, your house, made of saplings bent into a frame and covered in overlapping birch bark sheets. It is impressively weatherproof for something without nails, but still not waterproof. Rain seeps in. Smoke from the central hearth curls around your eyes, and the hide flap over the door doesn't really keep out the cold so much as let you pretend you're safe from it. There's no insulation, no central heating, just the body heat of whoever else is curled up next to you. Siblings, parents, maybe a dog, maybe 3, and the dying embers of last night's fire trying to stay alive under a pile of ash. You stretch. Bad idea. Your shoulders ache. Your knees pop. You're 16, but in this world, that makes you 1 part adult, 1 part creaky furniture. You slept in all your clothes again, because who has a wardrobe? You have 2 outfits, 1 for every day, 1 for when your first one gets too full of mud, fish slime, or whatever's living in your leggings this week. Your breath is fogging up the air inside the wetu. Your fingers are stiff. Your nose is definitely running, but congratulations, you're not dead. That's a solid start. Someone outside groans, someone else coughs. You hear footsteps crunching in the frost. It's time to get up, not because you want to, because your stomach says so. And here's where it gets fun. Because you don't just get up and stroll into the kitchen to make a little breakfast burrito. You don't even have a kitchen. You have a fire pit. Maybe a clay pot if it hasn't cracked yet. A carved wooden spoon. And a hope that someone found something edible yesterday. Breakfast in early New England isn't a meal. It's a mood. It's whatever didn't spoil. It's the leftover broth of boiled acorns and corn mush that's been reheated for the 3rd time since last Thursday. This morning's spread is as follows: 1. Cold pounded maize. 2. Possibly a handful of dried berries. 3. A small piece of smoked fish that smells like it died twice. No sugar, no butter, no coffee. Just a bowl of survival that tastes like damp bark and gritty realism. You eat quietly because no one talks during the first meal of the day, probably because their mouths are busy chewing food that actively resists being chewed. And also because you're all pretending this counts as nourishment. This is early New England, baby. You wanted artisanal? Here's your hand-pounded corn paste. Enjoy. If you're lucky, the mush was mixed with bear fat. If you're really lucky, it wasn't spoiled bear fat. If you're unlucky, it was a bad year for the mast crop, and now every squirrel, raccoon, and human in the region is fighting over the same handful of withered nuts and frostbitten tubers. Let's talk about those tubers. No, not the kind that gets turned into French fries. These are knobby, beige, vaguely potato-shaped roots that grow half-buried in the mud and taste like sadness. Some tribes call them ground nuts. Some call them Indian potatoes. You call them dinner, lunch, breakfast, and your backup plan. They're boiled, roasted, and mashed until they look like a beige paste. Then you eat them, slowly, without joy. Water? Sure, you can drink some, but only if you boiled it first. Because even in pre-colonial New England, the rivers were full of questionable things: animal waste, fish rot, and possibly the leftover dreams of someone who thought this would be a good time to fast. After breakfast, or what passes for it, you step outside. The air hits your face like a slap. It's cold, sharp, and smells like wood smoke, wet leaves, and faint despair. Your bare feet hit the frozen ground because you still haven't made new moccasins. The old ones gave up last month after you walked through a patch of sharp ice and deer poop. You tell yourself you'll fix them. Right after you finish helping smoke fish, cut firewood, dry corn, grind acorns, check the traps, and not freeze to death. You're not a child anymore. You work now, full time. No weekends, no PTO. Just the endless loop of seasonal chores designed to keep you and your people alive through winter. And it's only just starting. You start your day the same way everyone else does out here, by trying not to die before lunch. That means chores. You don't get to scroll TikTok or sip iced coffee while putting off responsibilities. You get to haul water from the icy stream using a bark bucket that leaks if you tilt it wrong. It sloshes all over your legs on the walk back, which is great because nothing says, "I love winter," like freezing kneecaps and damp thighs. Then it's time to gather firewood, because if you don't cook. And if you don't cook, you starve. And if you starve, well, that's one fewer mouth to feed. So technically, problem solved. You stack the firewood beside the wetu, trying to keep it dry under a piece of bark that definitely doesn't count as a roof. You want to split some of the thicker logs, but the stone axe is missing again, probably borrowed by someone who just needed it for a second, and then walked off into the forest to become one with the squirrels. Back inside, someone's stirring the morning mush pot again. Yes, the same one from earlier. Yes, it's still mostly corn. Yes, it still tastes like ground-up old shoe. But hey, now it's warm again. Progress. You chew in silence. There is no flavor. No salt. No butter. Just steam, grit, and quiet defeat. Now comes one of the most fun chores of the day: scraping dried animal fat off the inside of the smokehouse. Why? Because that's going in tonight's stew. You thought this would be glamorous? You thought you'd be a woodland warrior with cheekbones and honor and mystical vibes? Number: you are the person with your arm inside a rack full of smoked squirrel grease at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, praying it's not rancid. Welcome to survival. Your hands are already covered in soot and fur. You haven't bathed in days. That's normal. You'll maybe bathe next time it rains and the wind isn't trying to flay your skin off. Hygiene in early New England isn't a routine. It's a rumor. Soap? That's cute. Try ashes and sand. Shampoo? You rub your scalp with snow and hope it doesn't freeze into dreadlocks. Toothpaste? There is none. You clean your teeth with twigs, which is also how you pick the last meal out of your molars. And yes, everything hurts. Let's talk about those teeth. You started losing them early. The constant chewing of stone-ground corn and over-roasted meat turned your molars into gravel. One of your uncles had to pull his own infected tooth last spring using a sharp fish hook and 2 gulps of boiled spruce tea. You've been pretending your toothache isn't that bad ever since. But we both know it's coming. You finish your chores. There's no clock. You don't know if it's 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. You just know the sun is still visible, and no one's passed out from hunger yet, so you keep going. Next up, you check the snares. Out in the woods, your traps are simple. Twine, sticks, some bait, usually dried fish or corn mash. You crouch low and scan the snow for tracks. If you're lucky, you catch a rabbit. If you're really lucky, a bird. If you're unlucky, someone else took it already. Or worse, it's just gone, and the string is chewed through. Great. Time to reset it with your freezing fingers and a prayer. By the way, you've been hearing coyote howls lately, or maybe wolves. That's always fun when you're trudging home with nothing but a dead squirrel and an empty stomach. You make it back just in time for the midday meal. It's still corn mush, slightly newer corn mush, with some bits of parched ground nut and maybe a fishtail boiled until it disintegrates. You chew, slowly, resigned. This isn't food, it's fuel. It goes in, it keeps you alive, that's all. You wouldn't last a day. And this is just lunch. After you finish the noon not quite a meal, you sit by the fire and try to thaw your fingers. The air inside the wetu is thick with smoke, but at least it's warmer than outside. Someone throws a log on the fire that spits a few sparks, and now your leggings smell like burnt pine and misery. But hey, they were already covered in grease and sadness, so what's one more layer? You're supposed to go help check the storage pits, which sounds important, until you remember that food storage in early New England is basically a test of how long you can keep something buried before it turns on you. There's no fridge, no pantry, just hand-dug pits lined with bark and leaves, buried a few feet below the frost line and covered with a big rock. That's where the dried corn, beans, squash, and jerky live, assuming mice, bugs, and mold haven't already claimed it as their winter Airbnb. You help roll back the cover stone and lean in. The air smells damp, like earth, mold, and faint regret. You reach in, feel around the baskets, and pull up a half-filled container of dried beans. Congratulations, beans. Again, you're excited because this means dinner might be something more than boiled acorn goo tonight. Maybe something like bean mush, or acorn bean surprise, or whatever's left in the pot stew. You're not picky, you're cold. Someone else found a strip of smoked venison. It's the consistency of tree bark and smells like the underside of an old canoe paddle. But you will absolutely eat it. You might even fight your cousin for it. You almost did last time. Walking back to camp, you pass a patch of frozen bog. In summer, that's where the cranberries grow. But it's not summer. It's mud and ice and ghostly reed stalks, frozen in place like little regrets poking up through the frost. Let's pause for a moment to talk about flavor, because you don't have any. No salt. That's expensive to trade for and not always easy to make. You have herbs, sure, if someone remembered to dry some wild onion or sweetgrass. But the average dish you eat? It tastes like wet earth, hard work, and the inside of your mouth. Food isn't supposed to taste good. It's supposed to not kill you. And that's the bar we're working with out here. The afternoon drags on. Someone's repairing a fish weir in the creek. Someone else is weaving a new fish net out of inner bark fibers. You help strip bark from an old cedar log, which is exactly as exciting as it sounds. You try not to stab your own hand with the knife. Again. The sun starts to dip. It's not even late, but the light is going, and so is the heat. You run back to the wet-u to help start the fire again. This time, the smoke goes straight into your eyes and nostrils. You try to blink, but your tears just make your face colder. Dinner is finally ready. And by ready, we mean hot. Tonight's menu: corn mush with beans and a little sliver of dried meat. If you're lucky, someone threw in a few shreds of squash from last fall's harvest. But no one talks about that harvest anymore. It wasn't great. Too much rain, too many worms, not enough sun. You think of the old woman down the path who had to trade her winter moccasins just to get a gourd full of old cornmeal last month. You chew slowly. Again, your jaw aches, your back hurts, your knees are stiff, and you are 16. Welcome to middle age. Someone farts. No one says anything. That's just life now. You finish dinner sitting cross-legged on a mat that smells like damp fur and last week's foot. You suck the last bit of mush from your fingers and stare into the fire, which is mostly smoke now. It doesn't smell comforting. It smells like wet pine and slow-burning regret. You hear the wind creaking through the trees outside. It's not a soft wind. It's the kind that whistles through the slats in the bark walls and makes you wonder if you're going to wake up tomorrow with snow in your hair. Again, time to clean up. Except there's not really a cleaning routine. You don't rinse the dishes in hot soapy water and hang them up neatly. You scrape the bowls out with a stick, wipe them with a tuft of grass, and call it a night. If you're feeling fancy, you rinse them in a puddle. Not a clean puddle. Just a puddle. With hope. Your hands are stiff from cold. Your fingernails are caked with grease and ash. Your tunic has absorbed so much smoke and animal oil that it could probably walk away on its own. But you're not changing. Why? Because this is your only tunic. The backup one is half frozen and still smells like fermented fish. So you bundle into your current crusty outfit, like it's a second skin, and go outside for one last task. Toilet break. Let's talk about bathrooms. You don't have one. There is no outhouse, no chamber pot, no wooden seat with a hole in it, and a moon carved in the door. What you have is a spot behind a tree. Or if you're lucky, a flat rock you squat behind when no one's looking. You grab a stick to prod away any frozen surprises left by someone else. And you do your business. Quickly. Because the wind is blowing through your soul, and your butt is now fully numb. Wiping? If you're asking, you're not ready. You grab whatever's nearby, snow, leaves, moss, your own dignity, and hope for the best. Do it wrong, and you get a rash. Ignore the rash, and you get an infection. Ignore the infection, and well, you know how this ends. You die. Of poop. Not exactly heroic. Back inside, you settle in for sleep. There's no mattress. You lie on a bed of bark mats, straw, and flattened fur that smells like a cross between old fish and tired dog. There's no privacy. You sleep next to your siblings, cousins, sometimes your grandmother, sometimes a baby, sometimes all of them at once. Everyone pressed together like sad, itchy sardines. Someone snores. Someone kicks you. Someone mumbles something in their sleep that sounds suspiciously like your name. You pull your wool blanket tighter around your shoulders. It's not soft. It's not warm. But it's all you've got. You tuck your hands under your armpits and curl into yourself like a very disappointed porcupine. And you try to sleep. Outside, the wind picks up again. A coyote howls in the distance. Someone shifts in their sleep and the whole mat creaks. You close your eyes. Congratulations. You survived the day. Barely. And tomorrow, you do it all again. Because in early New England, the food doesn't get better. The work doesn't get easier. And the only guarantee is that you'll still be hungry. Morning again. You wake up with your face mashed into a damp fur pelt that smells vaguely like mildew and last season's regrets. Your mouth is dry. Your nose is frozen. And something bit your ankle during the night. Probably a flea. Possibly a mouse. Could have been your little brother. You sit up slowly because everything hurts. Your neck is stiff. Your back feels like someone whittled it into a canoe. And your legs are sore from squatting behind a tree in the dark, hoping you didn't sit on anything living. Outside, the sun isn't quite up yet, but the sky is turning that pale bluish gray that says, "Time to work, peasant." You roll over, trying to pretend that maybe this is the day you sleep in. It isn't. You know it. The cold knows it. And your stomach definitely knows it. Corn mush again. You can already smell it. Whoever got up first is stirring the pot, adding just enough water to make it stretch for everyone. No spices, no sugar, just warm, bland survival. You go outside and splash water on your face from a clay bowl. The water is near freezing. Your skin tightens instantly. Congratulations, you're awake. Back inside, the smoke from the hearth is already stinging your eyes. Someone forgot to open the flap again. You eat your mush in silence. You don't even try to enjoy it. You just count the number of chews it takes before you can swallow and move on with your life. Let's talk about seasonal eating. You don't get to choose your meals. You don't get cravings. You get whatever nature didn't kill this week. That's it. Spring? You eat sprouts, fiddlehead ferns, wild onions, ramps, and roots that were buried and hopefully didn't rot over the winter. Summer? Everything all at once. Berries, corn, squash, beans, fish, birds, anything that moves or grows. You eat until your jaw hurts and try to preserve as much as possible before it all goes bad. There's no Tupperware. There's no freezer. You dry things on racks, smoke meat, or bury it in pits and hope for the best. Fall is harvest season. Your people are experts at making the most of corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters. You dry the corn, string the beans, and slice the squash into thin strips to hang in the smokehouse. It all smells faintly like feet and hope. Then comes winter, and winter doesn't care about your plans. In winter, food becomes a memory. The streams freeze. The fish disappear. The birds are gone. The roots are deep and frozen solid. If you didn't store enough, you go hungry. If the snow's too deep to hunt, you go hungrier. If your storage pit floods or molds or gets raided by raccoons, congratulations, you're eating boiled bark for dinner. Your dreams at night start to smell like roasted meat. That's how bad it gets. You once had a dream about butter, You've never even had butter, but you woke up chewing your blanket. You're back in the woods today, checking snares again. It snowed lightly last night, so now you're tracking deer through half-frozen slush, trying not to fall face first into a rabbit hole. You find a squirrel in one of the traps. It's stiff. Probably froze last night. You say a short prayer of thanks, not because you're particularly spiritual today, but because you're that hungry. You carry it back in your pouch, knowing that your family will divide it into 7 tiny bites and act like it's a feast. You pluck it, gut it, throw it into the pot. That's dinner. Squirrel and beans again. After dinner, if you can even call it that, you sit in the dark for a little while. Not because you're being mysterious, but because there's not much else to do. You don't have Netflix. You don't have a book. You don't even have a candle. What you have is firelight flickering against the inside of your wetu, a few shadows on the wall, and someone's grandparent mumbling a story that may or may not be about how their brother got stuck in a tree and had to chew through his own leggings to get free. The stories help pass time. They also remind you of 2 things. 1. Life is pain. 2. If you want to live, you have to eat weird things sometimes. Let's talk about weird things. You've eaten frog. Tastes like whatever it's cooked in, usually smoke and regret. You've eaten boiled turtle. Chewy, rubbery, slightly fishy, always full of little bones. You've eaten bugs, not by choice. They just come with the acorn paste. Someone once found a nest of bird eggs in the woods, still warm, buried under leaves. You boiled them in a clay pot, then realized they were half-developed. You still ate them. No one judged you, because hunger erases judgment. You've chewed on bark. You've scraped lichen off rocks. You've picked dried marrow out of bones. You've boiled fish heads for broth, then chewed the eye sockets like they were soup dumplings. And still, somehow, you're not full. Because food here isn't about satisfaction. It's about strategy. Every bite is a calculation. Can we stretch this? Will this last? Will I regret eating this now if we get snowed in tomorrow? And speaking of snow, it starts falling late that night. You hear it before you see it, soft and steady like someone shaking flour onto a drum. By morning, everything is white. The world is muffled, and you're already hungry again. You pull on your stiff leggings and wrap your cloak around your shoulders. Your boots are still wet from yesterday. They squish when you walk. The snow crunches under your feet like someone chewing dry beans too close to your ear. Today's mission? Find firewood. Again. Why? Because everything burns faster in the cold. Because the bark walls don't hold heat. Because your fire went out at 3 a.m. and now your little cousin has icicles in his eyebrows. You haul logs, break branches, strip dead bark. Your hands go numb, your feet hurt, your breath fogs up your eyelashes. Then, because nature has a sense of humor, it starts raining. Frozen rain. Not cute snow. Not gentle sleet. Just betrayal from the sky. You slip twice on the way back. One time into a puddle. One time into your own sense of despair. Back in the wetu, someone is boiling water for tea. It's not real tea. It's just pine needles and hope. You sip it slowly, pretending it warms you up. It doesn't. But the steam makes you feel slightly less like a block of ice. There's no breakfast again. You had some roasted acorns set aside, but they were moldy. You tossed them into the fire and they hissed like they were mad about it. So now, you sit, empty stomach, cold feet, damp everything, and you wait. Because in early New England, you don't get 3 meals a day. You get what the woods give you. And sometimes, the woods give you nothing. By midday, your stomach is doing that thing again. The folding, the slow twisting, the low gurgling complaint that says, "Hey, remember food? Let's try that again." Except there isn't any. You already checked the pit. The dried beans are gone. The last string of fish jerky was eaten yesterday. Someone roasted a crow last night, and now the bones are dangling from a stick outside, like a sad warning to all future crows. You chew a piece of bark just to give your jaw something to do. It doesn't help. You go looking for something, anything. You walk along the edge of the woods, scanning for frozen berries or something edible under the snow. Nothing. Eventually, you find a cattail root frozen solid into the ground. You pry it loose with your fingers until your knuckles are raw. Then you carry it back, peel it, roast it over the fire, and eat it in 3 slow, joyless bites. It tastes like wet cardboard, but warm. Your cousin asks if you're going to share. You lie and say it was too small. They know you're lying, but they don't say anything, because they'd do the same. Later, someone mentions the famine year. Not this year, the last one. The one where a whole family got trapped in their winter shelter and didn't make it to spring. The one where the lake froze so solid the fish under it froze too. The one where people ate boiled leather and pine pitch just to stay upright. Your stomach makes another noise. It's quieter now. That's not good. That's hunger shifting from protest to resignation. You look over at the smoke hole in the roof. It's clogged with snow. So now the fire smoke has nowhere to go. It curls down instead of up, and suddenly your eyes are burning and your lungs are coughing, and someone's waving a piece of bark like a fan, trying to push the smoke back out like it's scared of effort. It doesn't work. Nothing really works. Someone throws more pine on the fire anyway. You hear it crackle and hiss like it's mad you even asked. The baby in the corner starts to cry. No one has anything to give her. Her mother wraps her tighter in fur and just holds her close. You pretend not to see. You step outside again, partly to breathe, partly to not scream. The snow is deeper now. It reaches your knees in places. You trudge through it, not really going anywhere, just moving. Moving feels better than sitting. Even if your legs are frozen and your fingers feel like someone else's. Even if you're walking toward a horizon that won't give you anything back. You find a frozen rabbit track, just a few prints, nothing fresh. You follow them anyway, because this is early New England. And food? Food is a myth you chase on frozen feet, through silent trees, hoping that when you finally catch it, it doesn't turn out to be a piece of bark again. You keep walking, not far. Just to the edge of the woods where the trees thin out and you can see the frozen stream, half buried under snow and silence. In the warmer months, this is where you'd fish. You'd stand barefoot in the mud, spearing at silver flashes and yelling when someone fell in. The air would smell like damp moss and possibility. But now, the water is still, covered in thick ice. No fish. No sound. Just the groan of a cold that's been here longer than you. You crouch and brush the snow off a flat stone. Then you just sit, breathing through your nose. watching your own breath rise like tiny smoke signals. The wind stings your eyes. You blink and let your mind wander, because honestly, it's easier than thinking about how bad the hunger's getting. You imagine roasted duck. You've only had it once. You were 9. It was the best thing that ever happened to your mouth. You can still taste the fat on your tongue. Still remember the way it crackled when it hit the fire. Still remember how fast everyone fought over the bones. You'd eat the bones now. You'd grind them up and mix them into mush. You'd chew them just to taste the memory. Your stomach doesn't growl anymore. That's bad. Growling is good. Growling means the body's still asking. Silence means it started to give up. You hear something behind you, a crunch in the snow. You turn your head and see your aunt. She doesn't say anything, just nods, sits beside you, wraps her fur cloak around both your shoulders without asking. You don't say thank you. You don't have to. That's how things work here. You suffer together, or you don't survive. She hands you a pouch. You open it and find pine nuts, maybe a dozen. Where did she get them? You don't ask. You split them. 6 for her, 6 for you. You suck on each one before chewing, trying to make it last. They're oily and soft and taste like trees and grace. It's the best thing you've had in days. You close your eyes and lean against her. The snow keeps falling. Back at the Wetu, someone is singing, quietly. It's not a song with words, just a soft melody that rises and falls like breathing. It's a song for hunger, for hope, for getting through the cold one more night. You walk back in silence, carrying that melody in your head, like a candle you're trying not to blow out. Inside, the fire is low. Everyone's curled up, wrapped in layers of fur and fatigue. Someone passes you a bowl. It's warm. That's all that matters. You sip it. It's watery. A thin soup made from boiled bones and bark, and maybe a scrap of meat someone found frozen to the inside of a pot. But it's hot. And right now, that's enough. You finish it, set the bowl down, and lie back on your mat. The smoke is thinner tonight. The air still hurts, but less than usual. Your belly isn't full, not even close, but it isn't empty either. You breathe in the silence. Someone coughs. Someone mutters in their sleep. Someone dreams of a feast that probably never existed. You curl into yourself, your cloak wrapped tight, your fingers pressed to your ribs. And for now, you rest. Because tomorrow, the hunger starts over. And if you're lucky, you'll be here to feel it. You wake up to coughing. It's not yours. It's old coughing. Deep coughing. That kind of rough, wet sound that doesn't just say, "I'm sick." It says, "This has been coming for a while." It's your grandfather. You don't say anything. No one does. But everyone hears it. And everyone knows what it means. Winter's long. Food's low. Illness doesn't ask permission. You sit up slowly. The fire's out. Again. Your breath fogs in the air, and you pull the hide tighter around your body. The floor is cold. The air is colder. And your spine feels like it's made of frozen rope. You step outside. The sun is low and white and useless. The sky is that dry, glassy blue that makes you squint and doesn't give you a single ounce of warmth in return. Snow creaks under your feet. Your fingers ache just from being alive. You find a patch of dry grass near the tree line, Not because you need grass, because you need something to do with your hands. You start pulling it, slowly, methodically, because everything in you is tired, and if your hands don't move, your mind will. And right now, your mind is not your friend. You're not starving, not exactly. You're in that phase after hunger, the one where you stop feeling sharp and start feeling fuzzy, where time stops mattering, where you forget if you've eaten today, or if that was yesterday, or if yesterday was even real. You feel light, but not in a good way. Light like a feather that could fall over. Light like something hollowed out. You look down at your legs. They've gotten thinner. Everything has. Someone in the village passed 2 days ago. Old woman, quiet. She just didn't get up. They said it was time. You don't know if that's true, or if it was just snow and cold and nothing left to eat. But nobody said it out loud. You pull more grass, tie it into a knot, untie it again, repeat. Back in the wetu, your mother is boiling something. It smells like shoes. You walk over. She looks at you, says nothing, hands you a bowl. You take it, carefully. It's bone broth, the same bone. Again, it's been boiled 4 times already. It's clear now, just warm water with a ghost of meat flavor and maybe some old bark floating around like wood confetti. But you drink it. Because warm is better than not warm. Because the act of drinking something is enough to convince your body, for now, that you're still trying. Let's talk about real famine. It's not like movies. There's no dramatic moment where everyone weeps and collapses. It's slow, quiet, whispered. A skipped meal here, a smaller portion there. A cousin who says they're not hungry. A child who sleeps longer than usual. A woman who won't meet your eye as she offers you her portion because she already ate. Everyone lying. Everyone pretending it's fine. Because admitting the truth would be worse. You drink your broth and chew on a stick and sit near the fire with a blanket over your knees. You stare at the logs and think about spring. Even though spring isn't coming soon, and even when it does, it won't come with food. It comes with melting mud and wet fur and hungry animals, and the long, slow scramble to find anything edible before your ribs poke out of your shirt. Spring isn't a fresh start here. It's just phase 2. But you wait for it anyway. Because what else is there? You wake up with dirt in your mouth. You're not sure how it got there. You weren't eating in your sleep. Probably. But everything smells like soil lately. Your blanket, your hands, your hair. Maybe the earth is just claiming you slowly. Your lips are cracked. Your throat is dry. You sit up too fast and your vision swims for a second. You grab the wall of the wetu, which shifts slightly under your weight because nothing here is nailed down. It's bark and bone and friction and hope. That's it. Outside, the snow has started to melt. Just a little. Just enough to turn everything into slush. You step into it and immediately regret being alive. Your moccasins soak through instantly. Cold water seeps between your toes like betrayal. The path is a mess of brown and white, and whatever animal leavings got frozen into it last month. You don't even react anymore. You just keep walking. Because this is early spring in early New England, which means 2 things. 1, you survived the worst of the winter. 2, now it gets harder. Because now the food's really gone. The dried corn ran out in February. The smoked meat didn't even make it that far. The last pumpkin was eaten raw on a Tuesday in desperation. You didn't cook it. You just carved out the seeds and chewed until your jaw locked. Now, your people are in full forage mode. That means dig, pluck, chew, repeat. You crouch in the woods, poking the wet soil with a stick, hoping for roots. Anything tuber-like. Something to gnaw. You find one. Maybe a groundnut. Maybe not. You wipe it on your leg and bite down. It's crunchy, bitter, has the texture of wet sand. You chew slowly anyway. You spot fiddlehead ferns starting to push up through the leaves. Not ready yet. Not even close. But give it a few days, and they might just be food-shaped enough to pretend. You dig some more. You find an old squirrel skull. You think about it longer than you should. Then you keep digging. You pass a tree you know. One of the good ones. You scrape some bark off. Not all of it. Just a strip. If you boil it long enough, it makes a kind of tea. If you boil it too long, it makes your stomach hurt. You try to remember how long too long is. You probably won't get it right. Back home, someone found a frog. They're already gutting it. They don't even look proud, just efficient. The frog goes into the pot with yesterday's bark water and the last handful of frozen cranberries, still sour and shriveled and angry. No one says it, but this is the best meal in a week. You gather around the fire. It's still cold out, cold enough to see your breath, but your hands warm when you hold the bowl. You sip. The broth is thin, but it's something. The frog leg is soft and flaky and doesn't taste like anything but heat. The berries make your teeth ache. You lick the bowl. No shame. Then you sit and breathe and hope that tomorrow brings another frog or something. You don't cry anymore when you're hungry. That stopped weeks ago. Now you just feel flat, like a reed bent under snow, still standing, but just barely. You dream a lot. Weird, vivid dreams. Sometimes you're back in summer, swimming in the river, biting into fresh corn. Sometimes you dream of bread, even though you've never actually had bread. You saw it once, when a traveler passed through with white powder in a sack and gave some to the elders. They made a little circle of dough and baked it on a hot stone. It puffed up and smelled like heaven. You didn't get any, but you remember the smell. Sometimes, even now, you swear you can still smell it. This morning, you chew pine pitch. Not for food, for the taste, for the illusion of chewing, for something to trick your body into staying here. Your gums bleed a little. That's new, but not surprising. You walk to the stream. The ice is cracking now, pulling apart like tired skin. You kneel and break a piece, scoop up water with cupped hands and drink. It's so cold it burns your teeth. That's how you know you still have a few left. Your reflection in the water looks like someone else. Your cheeks are hollow. Your hair's sticking up in every direction. Your lips are chapped and your nose is peeling. You touch your own face just to remind yourself you're still inside it. Behind you, someone is humming. It's your older cousin stringing a new snare. Thin bark fiber, woven tight, eyes half-lidded like they're trying not to fall asleep while their fingers move. They offer you a piece of dried birch bark to chew. You take it. It doesn't help. The elders have started talking about the root ceremony, not because it's time, but because people are feeling weak. It's not exactly a party. It's when the old ones call everyone together to eat what's left of the sacred root stores, the ones buried deeper, the ones we don't touch unless we have to, and we have to. You gather in the big wetu. Everyone's quiet. The fire's burning, but no one's warm. Your cousin stirs the pot slowly. You see what's in it: crushed roots, bitter herbs, powdered dried meat, and water. Lots of water. Your bowl gets filled halfway. You nod. That's your thank you. You drink. It's earthy, sour, a little gritty. But it goes down, and suddenly, your fingers don't feel as shaky. Your ears stop ringing. You look around. Everyone's sitting, breathing, just being. No one speaks, but you can feel it in the room. This tiny flicker of something. Not joy, not even relief, just presence. This moment, right here, you survived another day. And for now, that's everything. It rains that night. Not a hard rain, just a steady, soft tap against the bark walls of the wetu. You lie there in the dark, listening to it, eyes open, blanket pulled up to your chin. The roof drips in one corner. It always does. You moved your sleeping mat a little farther away weeks ago, but the leak still finds you somehow. The sound is soothing almost, but it makes you nervous. Because water brings mud, and mud brings rot. You've seen a whole food cache turn black in a day just from a flood. One storm, one mistake, and weeks of dried squash become moldy soup for the ants. You wake up to mist. Everything is gray and damp and soft around the edges. The ground is slushy. The air smells like wet leaves and thawing soil. And something else. Freshness. You step outside, and for the first time in months, you smell something green. Not strong, not sweet, but alive. You drop to your knees and start scraping away at the leaf litter near a tree stump. It's there, sprouting. Tiny green coils pushing out of the ground like someone testing the air before deciding to exist. Fiddleheads. You grin. It's not joy, not really. Just this thin, buzzing energy behind your ribs, like your body remembers something your brain hasn't caught up to yet. You pick a few, careful not to take all of them. You know better than that. You leave the smaller ones to grow. You bring what you have back to the fire, cradled in your hands like treasure. Your mother blinks when she sees them. She doesn't smile, but her shoulders drop. That's close enough. You boil the greens in the same pot that's been hanging for days. Just water now, but you add the fiddleheads. Watch them unfurl slowly like tiny promises. You eat them plain. No salt, no fat, no flavor. But they crunch between your teeth, and the bitterness is sharp and real, and you swallow like it means something. It does. More grow every day now. You go out each morning and gather carefully, always quiet, always watching. The ground is waking up. The trees are waking up. So are you. Your people start moving more, not just surviving, moving. New fish nets get repaired. Snares are set again. Baskets get patched with fresh fiber. Someone is carving arrowheads. Someone else is fixing the canoe. And food starts to come back. Not much. Not fast. But it starts. A rabbit snare catches something. You get half a thigh. It tastes like everything you forgot you needed. You find wild onions. You chew them raw, and they burn your tongue. You cry a little. Not because of emotion, because your body isn't ready for this much flavor. A flock of geese passes overhead. One is shot down. There's enough meat for the whole camp. Everyone eats. Not much, just a piece, a bite. But your mouth feels full for the first time in months. And for a little while, food becomes more than fuel again. It becomes memory. You chew slow. You taste spring. You wake up to birds. Actual birds. Not the distant sound of one hawk circling over frozen silence, but a whole choir of little things chirping like the sky finally remembered how to be alive again. It feels wrong at first, like maybe you're dreaming, or hallucinating, or maybe you just lost your mind in the hunger fog and now your brain is playing nature sounds while it quietly shuts down. But then you open your eyes, and the sun is golden, and the air smells like wet wood and moss, and your little cousin is already outside, barefoot in the slush, chasing a frog with a stick. So no, this isn't a dream. It's just spring, real spring. Not the kind where you pretend mud is food and drink snow to feel full, but the kind where green things start growing faster than you can name them. You eat constantly now, not because you're greedy, because your body is trying to rebuild. You're burning through everything just to catch up. One day, you eat a full bowl of broth with actual meat in it, and then go right back outside and eat a fistful of sorrel because your stomach won't shut up. You chew on willow bark just because you can. Someone brings back a pouch full of duck eggs. Still warm, still soft. You boil them gently, and they taste like mourning and forgiveness. One even has a double yolk. Your older brother gives it to the baby without a word. No one says anything, but your mother blinks hard and turns away. Food still isn't easy. The fish nets tear. The wind knocks over your drying rack. Someone stepped on the last squash seedling by accident and got screamed at by 3 people at once. But now you have food. And that changes everything. It changes how you walk. You stand up straighter. It changes how you laugh. You actually do now. You sit around the fire at night, and someone tells a joke about last winter's boiled bark stew, and for once, it doesn't feel like a trauma trigger. It feels like a punchline. Your grandfather's cough fades a little. He still wheezes when the wind shifts, but he's back to carving, slowly, his hands working cedar into shapes that don't matter, but make people smile. Your uncle makes a big stew, wild greens, duck, onion, nettles, corn from the last basket of dried kernels. He calls it everything pot. It smells so good that even the dogs line up like they're in church. And when you eat it, you cry. Not a lot, just enough that your eyes sting and your hands shake and your ribs hurt a little from how full you feel. Someone pats your back, doesn't say a word. Because everyone knows. Everyone here has lived through it. Everyone remembers what it was like when the snow wouldn't melt and the bark was gone and you stared at a pot of nothing and drank it anyway. And now you get a second bowl. There's a rhythm now. You wake up and you're not starving. You stretch and nothing cramps. You walk to the stream and the ice is finally gone. The water flows fast and clear, humming like it knows something you don't. You scoop it into your hands and drink until your stomach sloshes. Then you eat. Yes, eat. Not gnaw, not chew out of desperation, not bite something and pretend it's food. You eat. A handful of berries you found along the trail, tart and soft and sun-warm. A piece of grilled fish with crispy skin that someone caught at dawn. A little wild garlic crushed between your teeth so your whole mouth lights up like you just kissed a lightning bolt. Everything tastes better when you know what real hunger is. You head out with a basket now. Not empty, not full, just expectant. The way people used to carry hope before hope got boiled down with bark water. You crouch under a cluster of maple trees, pulling wild leeks from the soil. Their roots are slick with mud. They smell like onions and promises. You eat one raw, because you can. Someone laughs behind you. Your friend, bent over in the same patch of ground, holding up a leek like it's a prize trophy. "You're eating dirt," they say. You shrug. "Better than snow." They nod. No argument there. You spend the day gathering. It's not easy. Your knees still ache from months of malnutrition. Your stomach gets full faster than it used to, then empties again in an hour. But it's not survival anymore. It's movement, maintenance, something close to life. At camp, someone is roasting fish on sticks. You can smell it before you see it. Fat dripping onto coals, the hiss of fire meeting meat, that perfect crunch when the skin starts to blister. You tear into your piece before you sit down. Burn your mouth. Don't care. This is what celebration looks like now. No drums, no feast tables, no decorations. Just a small circle of people. Legs stretched toward the fire, chewing with eyes closed, heads nodding, saying nothing. Because nothing needs to be said. You're here. You're alive. And there's fish. Someone passes around a gourd of corn mush. Not the sad kind. This one has berries in it. Actual berries. Sweet ones. The whole thing tastes like dessert, even though you've never had dessert and you're not entirely sure what that means. You eat 2 helpings. No one stops you. Someone else brought back honey. Not a lot. Just enough for 1 pot of tea. It smells like sunshine and stings your nose when it hits hot water. You hold the cup close, breathe it in, and sip slow. You are warm. You are full. And you did not have to kill anything with a rock today. That's as good as it gets. Summer doesn't arrive. It explodes. The air is heavy now, thick with bugs, sweat, and the smell of plants trying way too hard. The trees are puffed up with leaves. The undergrowth grows fast enough to trip you. You swat at your neck. Another mosquito. You're 4th today and it's not even mid-morning. But guess what else is out? Food. Everywhere. Blueberries. Strawberries. Raspberries. They're ripening in waves like tiny edible miracles. You can't pick fast enough. You eat one, drop one, try to carry 5 and end up with juice all down your arm. Your fingers are purple for a week. You fill baskets with greens, roots, nuts, shoots, bark, berries, mushrooms, you name it. If it grows and won't kill you, you pick it. Because here's the thing. You're not just eating for now. You're eating for then. Winter is always out there. Hiding. Waiting. So you start preserving. There's no fridge, no Ziploc, no chest freezer humming away in the corner. You have sun, smoke, and discipline. You slice meat into long strips, salt it if you're lucky. Hang it near the fire on a wooden frame. The smoke curls around it like a promise. If the fire goes out, it spoils. If the meat touches the ground, it spoils. If it rains and you weren't watching, spoiled. You dry berries on bark slabs, turn roots into powder, pack corn in tight clay jars sealed with pine resin and layered with ash to keep the bugs out. You check the jars twice a day like they're sacred, because they are. They're not food. They're time. They are the difference between hunger in February and telling February to go eat dirt. It's not glamorous. You reek of smoke all the time. Your eyes burn. Your hands are permanently sticky with tree sap and crushed fruit and fish scales. You get ants in your drying racks. You get raccoons in your storage pit. You get yelled at by your aunt because you tripped over the basket of smoked eel and dumped it in the river. No one laughs. That was 2 days of work. But eventually the storage shelves fill up. The baskets are heavy. The clay pots line the walls. You run out of places to stash things and have to hang bundles from the rafters. And for a second, for one tiny, blessed second, you feel rich. Not silver rich, not castle rich. Food rich. The kind that makes you breathe easier. The kind that lets you sleep with a full belly and a plan for breakfast. The kind that means you might actually make it through another year without chewing on your own dignity. Welcome to survival. You're crushing it. It's midsummer now. The sun is rude. It hangs above you like a hot accusation. You sweat before you even stand up. You're sweating while you sleep. You're sweating while you think about moving. Your clothes stick to you. Your hair smells like damp fur and smoke. Your armpits smell like roasted squirrel. You bathe, technically. You go to the stream, dunk your whole body, scrub with handfuls of sand and crushed mint leaves, and try to ignore the leeches. You get out and dry off in the sun while slapping mosquitoes off your thighs. 5 minutes later, you smell like a steamed vegetable again. It's fine. Everyone does. You gave up on personal pride about the time you ate a boiled frog and didn't even flinch. Today, you're hauling fish. Someone caught 10 in the weir downstream, and now you're dragging a wriggling bundle of wet rope and angry scales back to camp. They slap against your legs. You don't complain. You get back and dump them near the fire pit. Immediately, there's chaos. 3 people want to gut them. One person is shouting about using the good coals. Someone else is arguing about whether or not to add wild garlic or let the fish speak for itself. You walk away. Slowly. Calmly. Before someone makes you clean intestines again. You go pick berries instead. Out in the brush, you can still hear people yelling over seasonings and smoke angle. You crouch, pluck a ripe berry, and pop it into your mouth. Sweet. A little tart. Your teeth tingle. You grin. There's a peace in this. The simplicity of movement. The rhythm of it. Pick. Eat. Repeat. The sun bakes your shoulders. You shift in the shade. Somewhere nearby, someone is singing. Just a tune, no words. The kind of song people hum when they don't realize they're doing it. You hum along. Back at camp, the fish are finally roasting. You can smell the fat dripping onto coals. Your stomach tightens in a good way. You jog back, just in time to grab the tail end of a skewer before someone else does. You burn your fingers. You burn your mouth. Worth it. You eat fast, like it might disappear. Then you get seconds, not out of desperation, just because you can. Later, you help hang more food to dry. You tie bundles of herbs, string lines of sliced squash, and stack wood for smoking corn. Everything smells like fire and food and people doing their best. And you sit down as the sun sets, full belly, aching muscles, sticky fingers. You lick your palm. Don't waste anything. You lean back against a log and close your eyes. The night air cools your face. The frogs start singing. Your feet still smell like fermented fish. But for once, you don't care. You would think that with all this food, all this sunshine, all these berries and roots and squash and fish roasting on sticks, life would finally calm down. It doesn't. because now that the food is here, your new full-time job is making sure it doesn't leave, which is harder than you'd think. One morning you wake up and find that a raccoon has broken into the storage pit and dragged out an entire basket of dried blueberries. Gone. Just gone. Not even a thank you note. Later that same day, a thunderstorm rolls in while your cousin's out drying fish, and you forget to bring it in. The wind knocks it off the rack. Half falls in the mud. The other half is being carried off by a trail of ants that looks disturbingly well organized. You get yelled at. Fair. Another day, the fire goes out halfway through smoking a load of corn. No one notices for hours. When you bite into it, it tastes like damp wood and regret. You throw it to the chickens. They refuse to eat it. Chickens. But the thing is, this is all normal. Everything is always a little broken, a little messy, a little one wrong step away from catastrophe. That's survival. There's no extra, no cushion, no just toss it. You salvage everything. Re-dry the mudfish, scrape ants off berries, peel the ruined top layer off the smoked squash, and eat the inside anyway. You make do. Your cousin jokes that you're going to become a professional food ruiner. You throw a pine cone at them. They laugh. You laugh. Because what else are you going to do? You have half a dried fish in one hand and the knowledge that winter is only 3 months away in the other. And let's be honest, neither of those things feels super stable. Later, someone's toddler vomits up a whole handful of underripe berries. You watch silently as their mother scoops it up, sighs, and wipes her hands on her skirt like she's wiping off an unpaid bill. Someone drops a whole jar of rendered goose fat. It hits a rock, shatters. Everyone watches it seep into the dirt like the soul of next January's soup just floated away. No one speaks for a long time. Then your grandfather mutters, "At least it wasn't the last jar." And somehow, that counts as optimism. That night, you sit beside the fire eating a piece of toasted cornmeal mush. It's hard, like roof shingle hard, but you gnaw on it anyway, because that's what you do. You chew through the crust, dig out the warm center, and lean back on your elbows while someone tells a story about the time a bear tried to steal a baby and ended up getting chased by a group of grandmothers with sticks. You're pretty sure the story isn't real, but it makes everyone laugh. You look around. There are drying racks strung up like spider webs, smoke curling into the dark sky, people picking squash seeds out of their teeth. You're tired, you're sore, your hands are stained and your feet are cracked and your knees feel like firewood, but your belly's full, for now. The mornings are colder now. You wake up and your breath fogs in the air again. Just barely. Just enough to make you pause. Not panic. Not yet. But notice. Summer is slipping. You pull your fur closer around your shoulders and sit up slow. Your joints crack like dry twigs. Your mat is damp. Everything is damp. It's that weird part of the year where the ground can't decide if it's sweating or freezing. You step outside and there's a chill in the wind that wasn't there yesterday. You don't say anything. No one does. But everyone feels it. The time of abundance is ending. And now it's time to find out if you worked hard enough. You check the clay storage pits first. Pull back the bark covering and run your hand over the top layer of corn. Still dry. Good. You shift a few layers, testing for mold. None. Then the smoked meat. Still hanging. Still solid. Still smells like fire and animal and work. You count things, mentally, quietly, not because you don't trust your neighbors, though you kinda don't, because you have to know. Is there enough? You don't answer that question. You just keep counting. Back at camp, people are moving faster now. Focused, efficient. The chaos of summer is over. Now it's about control. You patch cracks in the food jars with pine pitch. You line baskets with dry grass. You hang bundles of herbs from the rafters so they'll finish drying before the real cold sets in. Your hands are never clean. They smell like garlic and resin and fish and effort. You sharpen knives. You scrape hides. You dig out old fur cloaks and air them by the fire. You fix leaks in the wedu. The roof sags a little. You plug the worst spot with a wad of moss and a silent prayer. You don't sleep well anymore. Too much to do. Too much to think about. Too many dreams of snow falling on your food stores, of mice, of mold, of someone accidentally taking too much and everyone being too polite to say anything. Your brother suggests a ration plan. You nod. Pretend to be calm about it. You weren't going to say it. But yeah, it's time. The days are still warm sometimes, but the nights, they bite now. You breathe out and see it hanging in the air. Just a little. Just enough. And that's enough. Because this is early New England. And the cold isn't just weather. It's a warning. It happens overnight. One day you're sweating in the sun, carrying firewood and thinking, maybe this year won't be so bad. And the next morning, your breath fogs the inside of the wetu before you even open your eyes. Your blanket's stiff with frost. Your toes ache before you even sit up. You step outside and the grass crunches. Not like damp crunch, solid crunch. Ice in your hair crunch. There's a thin crust of frost on everything. On the fish rack, on the corn baskets, on the rim of the water jar. No one says it, but this is it. The first frost. You go straight to the storage pit. You're still in your sleeping furs, hair sticking up, mouth dry. Doesn't matter. You pull back the lid, heart thumping. The corn is fine. You exhale. Then you check the meat, still dry. You check the nuts, still sealed. You check the beans, still boring and unspoiled. Good. You grab a handful of dried squash slices and chew on one like it's a celebration. It isn't. It's just reassurance. You walk back to camp and see others doing the same thing. Everyone checking. Everyone pretending not to look panicked. You lock eyes with your cousin. He's got a whole smoked duck under one arm like a football. You nod. He nods. No one speaks. Later, your aunt starts boiling stew. The real kind. The last real kind for a while kind. It's got meat, roots, beans, corn, herbs, and salt. Actual salt traded from the coast. She's going all out. You know what that means. She's trying to give everyone one good memory before things go bad again. You eat slow. You savor every bite like it's going to be your last, because it might be the best you'll get until the thaw. The pot is scraped clean. Everyone goes to bed full and scared, because now it's real. You start to see the cracks. Someone admits their dried berries went moldy. Someone else found weevils in their nuts. One jar of goose fat cracked in the night. It froze and split down the middle like it knew it was too valuable to live. You patch it with pitch. You try not to cry. You start eating a little less, just in case. You take a second look at the squirrels. Not cute anymore. Just meat you haven't caught yet. The nights are long now. The wind hisses through the gaps in the wall. You double up your blankets. Your cousin sleeps closer to the fire. Your mother whispers in her sleep. You stare at the ceiling and count days, because that's all you can do. The leaves start falling. Bright orange, deep red, yellow like old teeth. It's pretty, sure, but it's also a countdown. Every leaf that hits the ground is another step toward freezing. You walk through the forest and the leaves crunch like bones under your feet. You don't talk about it, but everyone's preparing for the shift. You stop gathering. You start protecting. You guard the food like it's gold. Actually, gold would be useless here. You can't eat a coin. You can't bite into $1. But a dry squash? A fat root? A strip of smoked deer muscle? That's real wealth. Someone builds a new cache pit. Deeper. Better sealed. Double lined with bark. They make a lid out of woven reeds and stuff it with dried moss. It looks ridiculous. But it works. Every night, someone checks it. You all pretend it's not a big deal. You all know it is. Your aunt starts talking to the fire, not in a creepy way, just little mutters while she stirs the stew. Let the smoke be strong. Keep the mold away. You pretend not to notice, but you repeat her words in your head later, just in case. You help build windbreaks out of brush and bark, stack firewood like it's a religious practice, sharpen blades, oil cords. Everything feels heavier now, like the air is leaning on you. One morning, a dusting of snow coats the ground, just a whisper, a warning. You all eat inside that day. The stew is thinner, fewer herbs, less meat. You all pretend it's fine. Later, a little ceremony. Just a small thing. You gather at dusk. Someone burns cedar. Someone sings. You press your fingers to your chest and let the smoke drift over your face. It's not about magic. It's about steadiness. About reminding yourself, you've done this before. You can do it again. You have to. That night, you hear the wind howl outside. You pull the fur tighter. You close your eyes. You dream of warm stew and frogs on sticks and sunlit berries. And you wake up hungry. Of course you do. Welcome to early New England. This is just autumn, and it's only getting worse from here. The first real snow comes when you're not looking. One day the ground is just cold. The next, it disappears under a blanket of white that makes everything quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds shut up. You step outside the wetu, and it's like the world is holding its breath. The snow isn't deep yet, just ankle high, enough to soak your moccasins and freeze your toes within 5 steps. But this is the beginning of the long silence, the part of the year when food doesn't grow, doesn't walk, doesn't move. It just waits, buried in pits, hanging in smoke, trapped in jars and baskets in the pit of your memory. You tighten your belt before breakfast. That's the new normal. Breakfast is 2 sips of hot water, a small chunk of dried root, and whatever grease you can scrape from the inside of an old gourd. It has flavor if you close your eyes and pretend. You miss crunch. You miss juicy. You miss anything that doesn't feel like chewing old cloth. You eat slow, not because you're savoring it, because you have to. You eat fast and your stomach cramps. You eat slow and your stomach still cramps. You're tired either way. Afterward, you sit by the fire and listen to the wood pop. No one talks much anymore. Conversation takes energy. Laughter takes warmth. You save both. Your cousin makes a joke about starting a snow-eating diet. Everyone groans. You chew pine needles. Not because they're good. Because someone told you they stop your gums from bleeding. They don't. You light a torch and go check the meat rack. Still there. Still frozen solid. You chip a piece off like it's ice. Boil it until it stops looking gray. Call it soup. Your mother calls it a miracle. She's only half kidding. You eat in silence again. You wipe your bowl with the edge of your sleeve. Lick it clean. You sit back, press your back to the wall, and stare into the fire like maybe it knows something you don't. You fall asleep with your eyes open. Dream of eating something that crunches. You wake up still hungry. Of course you do. You bite into a piece of dried corn, and you immediately regret it. It doesn't crunch. It shatters. Right into your molar. You spit out half the corn and half your tooth. You stare at it in your palm. There's a tiny smear of blood. You can feel the dull throb building already. Deep in the root, up into your jaw, behind your eye. You run your tongue along the edge and wince. Sharp. You don't have a dentist. You don't have a toothbrush. You don't even have salt to rinse your mouth. You have warm water, if you can heat it. You have a soft root to chew on. You have your own patience. That's it. Congratulations. Welcome to dental care in early New England. You eat on the other side of your mouth now. Slowly. Carefully. With the anxiety of someone holding an eggshell between their teeth. You stop chewing altogether some days. Just swallow things whole and pray they're not sharp. Food doesn't feel like food anymore. It's just a thing you have to get through. Each meal is a transaction. Calories in, soul out. You have a vague memory of what joy tasted like. It had berries in it, or maybe duck, or maybe just sunlight. You go outside to think, not because it helps, because sitting still makes your joints hurt. The snow is deep now. It makes walking difficult. You sink in with every step. The air burns your nose. You wrap your furs tighter and keep moving just to feel something. You look for animal tracks, even though you know there won't be any. Not today. Not this cold. You find one. Rabbit, maybe. You mark the spot with a stick. You'll come back later. Maybe. Back at camp, your little brother is crying because he wants more food. There is no more. Your mother gives him warm water in a bowl and tells him it's soup. He believes her. You do too, because what else are you going to call it? You chew another piece of meat. It's stringy. Your jaw cramps. You stop halfway through and just hold it in your mouth. Soften it. Think about something else. Like spring. Like anything. You lie down with the taste of failure in your mouth and the fire low beside you. You try not to shiver. You listen to the wind scream outside. You close your eyes, and you dream of chewing something that doesn't fight back. You've stopped feeling your toes, not in the dramatic I'm freezing to death way, in the quiet, boring, daily way. They just go numb now, every night, every morning. Every time you step outside the wetu to pee behind the same crooked tree and try not to fall into the snowbank. You come back in, press your feet to the edge of the fire pit, and wait. they always come back, usually with stabbing pain and a few new blisters. But hey, at least they're still there. Your cousin lost the tip of one pinky toe last winter. You don't ask how. You just avoid walking barefoot on cold stone now. This is survival. You no longer eat food. You consume material. One day it's bark soaked in old fish water. The next it's pine nuts ground into mush and stirred with something that might have once been rabbit, or raccoon, or sadness. It's hard to tell anymore. The other night, someone made a stew with cattail root, crushed acorns, and a single piece of dried squirrel tail. It tasted like ash and regret. But it was warm. And it didn't kill you. So, win. You've stopped asking what's in anything. You've stopped caring about taste. You just want warmth and fullness, even if it only lasts for an hour. You take turns sleeping close to the fire. Everyone does. The warmth rotates like borrowed time. You sleep curled up like a question mark. You wake up sore, stiff, and somehow still tired. Your belly is never full, but sometimes it's less empty. That's the new bar. Less empty. You dream about salt. Just a pinch. A real pinch. You think about the white stuff traded in from the coast, about how just a few grains on a piece of fish used to make you feel powerful. Now, you lick your sleeve because it tastes vaguely like something. Your aunt starts putting crushed charcoal in the stew. She says it helps. With what, exactly? No one knows. But the stew's already black, so who cares? You chew through it with your eyes closed. Pretend it's duck. Pretend it's anything. You drink the broth down in silence. It's bitter. It burns your throat, but it stays down. And you don't pass out. So, that's dinner. You've started talking to the corn, not, like, out loud. You're not that far gone, yet. But when you lift the lid of the storage pit and see those dry, pale kernels staring up at you, you nod. Like, hey, you're still here. And in your head, the corn nods back. Barely. You close the lid and pretend that didn't happen. This is just what winter does. You get weird. You sit in one spot for an hour and think about warm duck fat sliding down your throat. Then you snap out of it and realize you've been gnawing the same stick for 20 minutes. You dream about eels. Why eels, you don't know. Just slippery little miracles of protein swimming through a warm river you'll never see again. And then you wake up and someone's throwing frozen moss on the fire because you're out of dry wood. It smokes like death and smells like mold. You huddle next to it anyway. Your knees ache. Your back aches. Your teeth hurt. Your brain is starting to feel like old squash left too long in a basket. Your cousin says she saw a deer track. You all get excited. You all go look. It's old. Frozen over. Not fresh. You pretend to still be hopeful. You sharpen a spear anyway, because hope's the only seasoning left. Dinner is hard to explain. Someone found an old smoked bone with some stuff still on it. You boil it. The water turns gray. You add a few dried leaves. Now it's soup. You chew the marrow like it owes you money. You hand your little brother the last piece. You tell him it's good for growing strong. He believes you. You sit back against the wall, press your hands to your stomach, and close your eyes. You can hear someone snoring, someone crying, someone praying. The wind moans like it's hungry too. You wrap your fur tighter and count your toes again. Still there. For now. You mutter something to the corn in the pit. Maybe out loud this time. Maybe not. You open the storage pit, and your stomach drops before you even look inside. The smell hits first. Not strong, not dramatic, just wrong. Sour, too warm, too soft. You dig through the top layer of dried corn. Your fingers come back damp. A few kernels stick to your skin. Some are black. Some have tiny white hairs. Moldavian. You don't say anything, you just sit there. Still. For a long time. Because this was the backup plan. This was the emergency stash. The if things go really bad stash. And now, it's going bad. Literally, you pull out what you can. You spread the salvageable parts near the fire. You scrape off the worst bits and pretend you're saving something. But you know you're not. Not really. You hear your aunt muttering again. She's stirring the pot with her eyes half closed, whispering to the spirits of plants. You used to roll your eyes. Now you just sit next to her and whisper too. Anything helps. Even superstition. Even nonsense. Even corn prayers. The air in the wetu is tight. Everyone's quiet. The fire pops. Someone's stomach growls. No one laughs. There's a fight over dried meat. Not a big one, just a few angry words. A hand slap. Someone walks off crying. They'll be back. Because where else are they going to go? You chew on pine bark, not for flavor, just to chew. It keeps your mouth distracted. You close your eyes and try to remember the taste of spring. Dandelion greens, wild leeks, maple sap. You tell yourself it's not far now, just a few more weeks. Then things start to grow again. Then the birds come back. Then the mud smells like life again. You tell yourself all of that. And then you go back to the fire and eat the gray soup and try not to think about the mold still on your hands because you washed them, probably. And anyway, what choice do you have? You start dreaming of feasts again. Not like before, simple things like berries or duck fat. These dreams are cinematic. You're sitting on a throne made of roasted squash. Your hands are full of dripping meat. There's honey on your chin. Someone keeps refilling your bowl with hot corn mush that never runs out. You wake up licking your lips. Then you sit up, and you're back inside a cold wetu. Someone is snoring. Someone is coughing, and you have one piece of bark to chew. You stare at it like it personally betrayed you. You chew it anyway. At least it gives your mouth something to do. At this point, hunger isn't a feeling. It's a roommate. Always there, always grumpy, never pays rent. You try to stay busy. You sew things that don't need sewing. You clean the same pot 3 times. You go outside and stare at the trees. There's no food. Just white. Just wind. Just you standing there in cracked moccasins and trying not to cry over a dream you didn't want to wake up from. You hear voices sometimes. Not in a spooky way. In a, you've been living off pine broth and desperation way. The wind sounds like someone calling your name. The fire crackles, and it almost says something. You don't tell anyone. You don't want to get sent to the snowbank. You catch your cousin talking to her clay jar. She says, "Just hold on a little longer, okay?" You pretend you didn't hear. You talk to your stew too sometimes. Out loud, you tell it thank you. You tell it sorry. You tell it it's doing great. You scrape every bit of it from the sides of the pot. You lick the wooden spoon. You burn your tongue. You don't care. Later that night, someone swears they saw a squirrel, a real one. You all go outside. No one sees anything, but you believe them. You have to. A squirrel means food. A squirrel means spring. A squirrel means hope, even if it's just a snow shadow. You go to bed half frozen, half hallucinating, and full of nothing. You whisper to the corn pit again. You tell it you'll be better next year. You'll dry everything faster. You'll build a second pit. You'll listen to your aunt when she tells you the wind smells wrong. You promise. The corn doesn't answer, but you pretend it nods. The bones are gone, every one of them, cracked, boiled, scraped, burned, chewed. You find yourself picking through the ash pit outside, hoping someone missed one. Just one small chip of marrow. You find a piece. It's charcoal. You chew it anyway. Your little brother hasn't gotten out of bed in 2 days. He's not sick exactly, just quiet, tired, hollow. You give him the last spoonful of something that was once stew. He doesn't smile. You used to worry he'd grow up too fast. Now you just hope he does. Your aunt keeps telling stories. Not happy ones, not even funny ones, just old ones. About how her grandmother once survived a winter by eating moss off the back of a rock and pretending it was rabbit. You ask if she made it. Your aunt says yes, but she never looked at a rock the same again. You laugh. Sort of. It hurts. Your ribs feel sharp. Everything inside you feels loose, like your stomach gave up and went on vacation. You drink hot water with a pine needle in it and pretend it's soup. Someone tries to make a new stew using melted snow, cattail fiber, and the last of the goose fat. It smells like wet socks and desperation. You drink it anyway. It's warm. That's the only requirement now. Warm equals food. Flavor is dead. Joy is sleeping. You sit outside for a bit. The wind bites. The trees don't move. The sky is a dead white. You see a bird. One bird. Just a shape way out near the tree line. You stand up. Everyone sees you move, and they follow your eyes. The bird flaps once, twice. Gone. You all stand there for a while. No one says anything. You're thinking what they're thinking. If a bird can make it, maybe you can too. Maybe. That night, the stew is thinner than ever. Someone adds hot stone water just to give it weight. You chew a piece of bark for texture. You joke that it's a little overcooked. Someone chuckles. Barely. Then silence again. Always silence. You fall asleep holding your bowl, because sometimes, in dreams, it fills back up. And sometimes you forget to wake up. The first melt comes quietly. You wake up and the roof of the wetu is dripping. Not a lot, just a soft, irregular tap, like the sky forgot how to cry properly. You reach out, touch the wall. It's damp. You sniff the air. Still smoke, still people, still stale winter breath. But something else too. Dirt, wet dirt. You step outside in cracked moccasins and almost slip. Slush, real slush. It's gray, full of pine needles, and ugly. But you stare at it like a gift from the gods, because that means the ice is moving. The ground is waking up, slow, grumpy, but waking. The others shuffle out too. No one speaks. You just stand there, blinking at the puddles. Your cousin sticks a finger into the mud and laughs. Not a normal laugh. A weird, half-broken, I forgot my body could make that noise kind of laugh. You laugh too. Because the first melt means something. It means you made it through the worst part. But it also means everything's about to get even harder. The food is still gone. The snow is turning to mud. The roots haven't grown back. The animals are still hiding. And now, all your frozen storage is starting to rot. Fast. You open the meat pit and it smells like wet death. You pull out the top layer. Mush. You pull out the second. Moldavian. You find one piece that looks edible. You scrape off the gray, boil it in 3 rounds of water, and hold it to your nose. Still terrible. You eat it anyway. Because you don't have a choice. You all start poking around the woods, looking for something, anything green. You find moss. You find pine buds. You find half a worm and seriously consider it. You walk back empty-handed. Your aunt tells you to wait a few more days. She says the roots will come back. The water will run clean again. She says to be patient. You chew on your sleeve and nod. Inside the wedu, the ground is soggy. The fire smokes. Your brother is sitting up again. You call that a victory. The stew tonight is boiled pine bark, snow melt, and a prayer. You whisper to your bowl again. Just hold on. Just one more week. You find something green. Not imaginary green. Not mold green. Not, my cousin swears this is edible, but won't try it first, green. Real green. A little shoot, poking up near the edge of the tree line. It's barely a bite. You crouch beside it like it's a sacred object. Touch it, smell it. It smells like nothing, which is perfect, because it doesn't smell like rot. You don't pull it, not yet. You just stare at it for a long time. Then you get up and run back to camp, yelling like an idiot. You wake up a baby. You trip over firewood. Someone accuses you of lying. You drag them to the plant. Now 3 people are crying. Your aunt calls it life. You call it lunch. You wait one more day. Then you dig around the roots carefully. Your cousin finds another shoot. Someone else finds 2 more. It's not much, but you boil it. Add it to pine broth. And for the first time in weeks, it smells like food. Actual food. The taste is bitter. Weird, but new. You chew slow. Everyone does. No one talks, because no one wants to ruin it. Later, you go back out. The snow is receding. The mud is worse now. Squelchy, loud. But under it, you see more green, tiny things. Shoots, buds, leaves curled up like they're scared to live. You don't blame them, but you cheer anyway. You walk home with dirty knees, a bundle of weeds, and hope in your hands. That night, you eat soup with actual color in it. You don't even know what half of it is. You eat it anyway. You don't even care that it tastes like lawn clippings, because it's new, because it's alive, because you made it through a winter that tried to kill you. And now you're holding a bowl full of proof. You sleep better that night. You wake up before dawn. Your back still hurts. Your fingers still crack. Your stomach still grumbles. But this time, it grumbles with expectation. You step outside, and the air doesn't hurt. Not as much anyway. You breathe it in. You whisper to the ground, "Thank you." And you mean it. You see a bird. Not in a dream, not in the corner of your eye. A real bird. Plump. Loud. Arrogant. It hops across the thawing grass like it owns the world. You stare at it. It stares back. You whisper, "Don't go." It goes. But that's fine. That's okay. Because if birds are back, so are bugs. And if bugs are back, so are frogs. And if frogs are back, dinner might start hopping again. Someone catches one. A frog. It's tiny. Barely meat on it. But the kid who caught it walks into camp like a war hero. You boil it. You split it 4 ways. You each chew a corner. It's tough. Tastes like wet leaf. But it's meat. It's protein. Your aunt weeps into her bowl. No one says anything. Everyone gets it. By midday, the ground is soft enough to walk without falling through it. You head into the trees. Not far, just to the edge. You carry a digging stick and a woven pouch and a very loud stomach. And you find things. Not many. Not enough. But things. Bitter cress. Wild onion. Something your cousin swears is edible and probably won't make you throw up. You all bring it home and dump it into a pot and call it stew. And it's green. And it's weird. And it doesn't taste like anything you ate in February. So you eat seconds. Someone smiles. Not a polite one. A real one. Their cheeks crack because they forgot how to smile. They do it anyway. And you? You sit back on your heels with a belly that's not full, but no longer panicking. You drink hot water that doesn't taste like ash. You smell like smoke and mud and something almost like health. You look at your cousin and say, "I think we're going to make it." They nod. Then they say, "Unless the frogs all die?" You throw a pine cone at them. They laugh. You laugh too. Because finally, this laugh doesn't hurt. The creek's running again. You hear it before you see it, just a thin, nervous gurgle through the trees, like the land is clearing its throat. You follow the sound, careful not to fall. The ground is still soft, still slipping under your feet like it's deciding whether to be mud or soup. But there it is. Water. Moving. Cold. You kneel beside it and dip your hands in. Your fingers go numb. You drink anyway. It tastes like rock and ice and the tiniest hint of moss. You've never been so grateful for something so unremarkable. You fill 2 gourds, splash your face, whisper something to the stream that might be a thank you, or might just be a noise. Back at camp, someone caught a fish. It's small. Embarrassingly small, but you act like it's a bear. It goes in the pot with whatever greens you've scraped together. A little wild garlic, some shoots. And suddenly the stew doesn't smell like pine bark and broken dreams anymore. It smells like hope. You eat it slowly, eyes half closed, like the food might run away if you move too fast. Your stomach doesn't cramp. You don't feel dizzy afterward. You don't hear phantom voices telling you to eat the clay from the fire pit. So that's progress. Your little brother actually asked for more. Your aunt gave him the last piece without hesitation, and you didn't say a word. Because this is the shift. Not a feast, not a hunt. But this, quiet bowls, clean water, people chewing slowly, no one panicking. You still go to sleep hungry, but not starving. You still wrap up in every layer you own, but your feet don't go numb. And when the sun rises, you open your eyes with something resembling anticipation, not dread. You stretch, you move, you plan. You start to remember what life felt like. Before the cold, before the silence, before food became a countdown to death. You remember what it feels like to cook without fear, to eat without guilt, to taste without hallucinating. And that's the real miracle. Not the fish, not the creek, just this. You're still here. You don't realize how much you've been holding your breath until the air finally changes. It's subtle at first, just a shift in the smell. Less smoke, less frozen dirt, more mud, more life. You're sitting near the fire, gnawing on a root that tastes like disappointment when it hits you. The scent of damp earth, of wet bark, of something just barely alive pushing its way up through the crust of the world. You pause mid-bite. You close your eyes, and for the first time in months, your body remembers what relief feels like. Not joy, not comfort, but that first flicker of maybe. Maybe you won't die this year. Maybe the forest hasn't forgotten you. Maybe food is something more than dried regrets in a cracked basket. Your aunt stands outside the wetu with her arms crossed, squinting at the sky. She doesn't say anything for a long time, just stares upward like she's waiting for a verdict. The clouds roll slow, software gray but not angry. Her breath doesn't fog anymore. When she speaks, her voice is hoarse. Time to plant soon. You don't say anything, but your heart thuds once in your chest. Not fear this time, something else. The kind of thud that feels like waking up after a long sickness. Planting means movement. It means bending, digging, carrying. It means dirt under your fingernails and sweat in your eyes. But more than that, it means believing you'll still be here long enough to harvest. That's the dangerous part. Hope. It's heavier than any basket you've ever carried. But you pick it up anyway. Because what else are you going to do? The next morning, you help dig out the old field. Your hands blister fast. The ground is stubborn, cold just beneath the surface. But you keep going. Everyone does. Someone finds an old stone hoe with a cracked handle. You wrap it in cord and keep using it because cracked is still useful. That becomes the new motto. Cracked is still useful. You tell it to your cousin when his foot cramps halfway through the day. He groans and throws a stick at your head. You laugh. You actually laugh. It's a dry, weird sound, like your throat forgot how to do it. But it happens. You sleep that night with dirt in your ears and a new kind of ache in your back. Not the hollow kind from hunger. The real kind. The earned kind. The kind that comes from doing something. Your belly is still mostly empty, but it doesn't hurt the same way. It's a hopeful kind of hollow now. You dream of green, not the sickly, imagined kind from deep winter. Real green. Sprouts, leaves, vines curling around your toes as you walk barefoot through rows of corn taller than your head. You wake up smiling into your fur blanket, the fire crackling low beside you. And for a second, just one, you don't feel like crying. Later that week, your little brother picks up a handful of wet clay and starts shaping it into a bowl. Not because he needs one, but because his hands don't know what to do now that they're not always clawing for food. You sit beside him and help smooth the rim. It's lopsided, ugly, perfect. You set it to dry beside the fire and promise yourself you'll use it for the first stew that tastes like something, even if it's just frog again. That afternoon, someone brings back a rabbit, a real one, fat from digging through wet roots, ears twitching even after it's been caught. You gut it gently, carefully, like it's sacred, because in a way, it is. Not just food, proof. You boil it with onion greens and whatever else you can scrape together. The whole camp smells it before it's done. People hover like shadows. No one asks for seconds. Everyone just eats slow, reverent. You dip your finger into the broth and let it sit on your tongue for a long, long time. It's salty, a little oily, richer than anything you've tasted in months. You blink hard, pretend it's smoke in your eyes. You don't say it out loud. No one does. But you all feel it. The hunger is lifting. Not gone. Not yet. But thinner. Like winter finally loosened its grip. Like the earth, after months of silence, is willing to answer your knock. It's planting day. Not just talking about it, not just dreaming about it, but doing it. You walk out to the field with a pouch of seeds tied to your belt, your knees still stiff from sleeping on cold dirt, your shoulders already sore from yesterday's hauling. The air smells like wet bark and warming soil. Worms writhe in the turned earth. You take that as a good sign, even if it makes your skin crawl a little. The soil is clumpy, heavy. It clings to the digging stick like it's trying to hold you back. But you keep working. You dig the first hole, not too deep. You drop in the corn kernel, cover it with earth, then another, then another. You don't speak. You barely breathe. It feels like a ritual, like each seed is a promise you're begging the earth to keep. Your aunt works beside you, her movements slow but steady. She doesn't hum, but she makes these soft little sighs every time she presses the dirt down, like each one carries a thought she's not saying out loud. The kids help too, sort of. Your little brother keeps spacing the beans wrong, but no one yells. You just fix it quietly when he's not looking. He needs to feel useful. You all do. You move down the row, sun on your neck, the ache in your lower back spreading out like warmth. And despite yourself, you start to think ahead, not to harvest. That's too dangerous. But just to sprouting, just to the first little green curl poking through the soil like a secret. You picture it in your mind, and it keeps your hands moving. Back at camp, the firewood pile is growing again. You take turns dragging down fallen limbs from the woods. Some are half rotted, some snap easy. You sort them out, stack them high, higher than you have in months. You don't say it, but it feels like building a wall against whatever might come next. The cold will come again, the hunger too. But this time, maybe you'll be ready. Someone finds maple sap still dripping from a cracked tree. Not much, just a thin bead that you catch on your finger. It's sweet, barely, but it makes your whole mouth tingle. You bring some back in a bark cup and boil it for hours. It turns to something thick and sticky. You dab it on a strip of boiled root and hand it to your cousin. Her eyes go wide like she's never tasted sugar before. She probably hasn't. Not since autumn. She licks her fingers afterward, licks the bowl, licks her lips, laughs. And suddenly, for one bright, shining moment, it feels like the world might be generous again. That night, someone tells a story around the fire. Not a sad one. Not about death or loss or hunger. A funny one. About a turtle that tricked a fox into falling into a river. You've heard it before, but this time, the punchline lands. You laugh hard. The real kind. The kind that shakes your ribs and makes your nose run. You laugh until your sides hurt, and the baby starts crying because she doesn't recognize the noise. Your aunt claps her hands once and says, "You're scaring the spirits." You laugh harder. Afterward, when things are quiet again, you lie down near the fire. You're tired, but not in that hollow winter way. More like the kind of tired that means you've done something worth doing. The flames flicker low. The smoke curls gentle. Your brother is curled up next to you, snoring into your shoulder. You can feel the weight of him. Solid, warm, alive. You close your eyes and let yourself drift. For once you don't dream of empty bowls or broken teeth or snow that won't melt. You dream of green, of seeds, of a bowl filled with corn mush and squash so hot it burns your tongue. And this time, when you wake up, your first thought isn't panic, it's peace. The rain comes in the middle of the night, not a storm. Not one of those violent summer tantrums that rip trees in half and soak your fire pit in seconds. No, this one is gentle, persistent, the kind that creeps in quietly and stays for days, drumming on bark, turning the ground to mush, and soaking everything you own through the seams. You wake up to the steady tapping on the roof poles, the soft plunk of droplets falling into puddles inside the wetu. Your blanket smells like smoke and mildew. Your feet are damp, but the fire's still smoldering, and that's enough. The world outside is gray, heavy, saturated. You step into it slowly, like you're wading into someone else's dream. The field is shiny with puddles. Mud clings to your ankles in thick, sticky globs. But the green, oh, the green. It's everywhere now, pushing up through the wet soil like it forgot how to be afraid. The sprouts are small still, delicate, but they're here. Your corn is here. You crouch beside it in the drizzle, hands on your knees, hair plastered to your forehead. You whisper, "Good job." You don't care if anyone hears. The rain keeps you inside most of the day. Everything is wet. Your clothes, your food, your attitude. The stew tastes like wet leaves. The fire won't stop smoking. The babies won't stop crying. But no one yells. No one snaps. You all just shuffle around in damp silence, waiting for the clouds to lift, waiting for the moment the mud turns to steam and the earth breathes again. You mend old moccasins by the fire. Your fingers work slower than they used to, more careful now. You're thinking about autumn already. You know better than to think the hunger won't come back. But this time, maybe you'll be ready. You talk about it with your aunt in low voices while you work. How much to dry, how deep to dig the new pit, whether the old smokehouse can be patched. She nods without looking up, says, "We'll need more fish this year." You nod back. You don't say it out loud, but you're both thinking the same thing. Never again. Not like last winter. Never that hungry again. By the third day, the rain stops. Just stops, like someone turned off a bad memory. The air is warm, damp. You step outside barefoot and squish through the mud without flinching. It's not clean, but it's alive. You find fresh shoots curling in the corners of the field, already taller than your hand. Someone spots mushrooms along the log pile. Your cousin tries to eat one. Your aunt slaps it out of his hand. No one dies. So, that's a good day. Dinner that night is a mix of greens, broth, a few strips of dried meat from the last rabbit, and something that might be fiddlehead ferns. It's not delicious. It's complicated, bitter in a way that tastes honest, like it remembers what it took to grow. You eat it slowly, not because you're trying to savor it, but because you can afford to. There's a second bowl waiting. That alone feels like magic. Later, you sit by the fire and run your fingers through your hair, which is finally clean, finally dry. The wind outside is soft. It smells like sap and charcoal. You lean back against the woven wall and close your eyes. You're tired, but not exhausted. Sore, but not broken. You think back to January, how every breath felt like failure, how your teeth ached from cold, how your dreams were just hunger in costume. You think about how close it got, how quiet death can be when it moves in slowly. But now, there's breath in your chest, there's food in your stomach, there's something green outside that didn't die, and neither did you. There's a moment, about a week after the rain stops, when everything feels too quiet. The fire is steady. The field is planted. Your body has adjusted to food again, though you still flinch a little every time someone scrapes the bottom of the pot. Just in case. You're not starving. You're not sick. Your hands don't shake when you stand anymore. And yet, there's this silence. It presses in at strange times. When you're washing a gourd, when you're walking back from the woods alone, when you're lying in bed, full enough to sleep, and your mind starts to drift into places it doesn't usually go. You think about the ones who didn't make it. There weren't many, but enough. A cousin, younger than you, whose face got thinner every day until one morning she just didn't wake up. The old man who stopped talking in February and never started again. A newborn that only lived long enough to feel snow. No ceremony, no feast, just bundled and buried, quiet, while the rest of you pretended it didn't matter. But now, when the air smells like spring and your fingers aren't blue, it matters. You walk out to where they're buried, just past the edge of the clearing, under a crooked cedar tree. You don't bring anything with you. Not food, not offerings. Just yourself. Just your breath and your guilt and the question you still don't have an answer to. Why you're still here and they're not. You sit for a long time. No one comes looking. They know where you are. They've been there too. It's part of the spring ritual now. Morning, when you have the strength for it. You come back to camp as the sun's going down. The light is golden in that ridiculous way it gets in spring, like the sky is trying to show off. You pass by the cook pot and catch the smell of roasted fish and wild garlic. It hits you so hard you stop walking. Not because you're hungry, but because for the first time in months, it smells good. Not edible, not safe. Good. You sit with the others around the fire. You eat. You talk. You even smile a little. Your brother tells a story about tripping into a mud puddle and losing his shoe. It wasn't funny when it happened, but now it is. You tease him. He punches your arm. You finish your stew and actually sigh like you're satisfied. And then you hear someone humming. Software low. A tune you haven't heard since autumn. Your aunt. She's not looking at anyone. Just stirring the pot for tomorrow. Voice barely louder than the steam. But you all hear it. And no one stops her. Because it's time. You're allowed to hum again. You're allowed to enjoy food again. To feel full without shame. To laugh without choking on it. You're alive, and tonight, that's enough. The berries come back without asking. No announcement, no permission. One morning, you're walking through a patch of thistle and damp grass, and there they are, nestled in the underbrush, like they never left. Tiny red bursts of something sweet, actual sweet. Not pine sap scraped off tree sweet. Not, if you boil it 6 times it's sort of tolerable, sweet. Real sweet. You stare at them for a minute, unsure if your brain is playing tricks again. But they're there. Shiny. Software. Stupidly bright. You pluck one, turn it in your fingers, and pop it into your mouth before you can second guess it. And for a second, just a second, you stop being a person who almost starved to death. You stop being a walking sack of cold bones and survival instincts. You stop being afraid of the forest. You're just a mouthful of berry and a brain flooded with joy. You pick another and another. Your hands stain pink. You don't go back to camp right away. You sit in the brush and eat slowly, like the plants might take offense if you rush. When you finally return, your face gives you away. Someone sees your hands, your grin. They grab a basket. The entire camp moves like it's been kicked in the ribs. No one even speaks. Just motion, fast and eager and half hopeful. By midday, you've got a pile. A real pile. Enough to mash, enough to dry, enough to stain every child's mouth purple. Your aunt says it's a good sign. You believe her. Later that week, the river clears. The mud settles. The minnows return. Someone drops a basket in the water and pulls it back up with 6 fat fish flipping inside like they don't know the war is over. You laugh so hard, you fall backwards on the riverbank. That night's stew doesn't even need pine bark. You slice actual vegetables into it. You season it with crushed greens. You serve it with mashed berries on the side like you're hosting a fancy dinner in your broken-down, smoke-stained dirt hut. Someone jokes about building chairs. Actual chairs. You all groan like they just suggested building a temple. You'll sit on logs like proper humans. No need to get dramatic. But secretly, the idea doesn't sound that crazy anymore. You start patching the wedu better. Add an extra layer of bark where the wind got in last winter. Reinforce the smoke hole. You organize the food pit. Mark off space for drying racks. Everything feels like preparation. Like this time, you might not be scrambling when the cold returns. You ask your aunt if she thinks next winter will be better. She just looks at you and says, "If we work." You nod. That's fair. Because surviving here isn't about luck. It's about remembering everything. What froze too fast, what rotted, what gave up on you. You carry all of it like a second skin. The memory of hunger never leaves. But now, it doesn't own you. You're still here. And for once, the future doesn't look like a threat. It looks like a season. There's this weird thing that happens when your hands are full and your belly is quiet. You start to get nervous. Not loud nervous. Not panic in your chest, run from a bear nervous. Something smaller, slower, more suspicious. Like abundance is a trick, and you're about to fall for it. You sit in front of the drying racks, watching rows of fish fillets shrink under the sun, and it hits you. There's too much. Too much fish. Too much green. Too many baskets filled with berries that you're supposed to mash or smoke or preserve before they go soft and start smelling like sweet regret. You start working faster. You start checking the pits twice. You start waking up in the night to make sure the fire didn't burn too low, that the roof didn't leak, that the drying rack didn't collapse in the wind. Because you've been burned. Not just by frostbite or hunger or disappointment, but by hope. Hope is what convinced you to store food last fall, to believe in a future, to tuck corn into clay jars and pretend it would stay dry. You remember digging through that moldy mess with tears in your eyes and mud on your face, swearing you'd never trust abundance again. And here you are, trusting it again. So you build a second pit, deeper, wider. You line it with more bark this time, drier bark. You talk to your aunt about better lids, about storing herbs separately, about weaving tighter baskets. She nods at all of it, but you can tell she's watching you carefully, like she recognizes the edge you're walking. Your cousin finds you one morning, just sitting in front of the fish racks, staring at them like they might explode. "You okay?" they ask. You shrug. "Too much food." They blink at you. "You've gone crazy." You nod. "Little bit." They sit beside you and start peeling bark strips for cordage. You don't say much else. You just work. Together. Because that's how the fear quiets down. Not by talking about it. Not by pretending it's gone. Just by doing. And there's plenty to do. The children need to learn how to carry bundles the right way. The teenagers need to learn how to recognize the right roots, not the ones that make your stomach flip and your skin itch. You're not an elder. You're barely more than a kid yourself. But you're the one who remembers last winter with enough detail to scare people straight. So you teach. You show your little brother how to line the pit, how to keep the jars above the frost line but below the mice line, how to stack bark just loose enough to breathe, just tight enough to protect. You're halfway through explaining why berries should be mashed before drying when he looks up at you and says, "Do you think we'll be okay next time?" And you freeze, not because you don't know the answer, but because you do. "If we work," you say, just like your aunt. And he nods, like that's enough. Because it is. You're not building a future, not yet. That's too far ahead, too dangerous. But you're building a season. And that's what you can handle. The first visitors arrive on a cool morning with damp grass and sun creeping in slow across the tree line. You hear them before you see them. Wooden paddles slicing water, then soft voices, then the scrape of a canoe bottom meeting gravel. You stop what you're doing, scrubbing old fish guts off a gourd bowl, and walk to the riverbank with your hands still dripping. There's 3 of them, 2 men, 1 woman, all wrapped in cloaks that still smell faintly of smoked hide and pine. Their eyes move slow, cautious, respectful, not tense, just careful, like people who've seen too many bad winters and aren't quite ready to trust that it's over. You remember that look. You wore it last month. They bring dried corn, real corn. Not scraps or crumbs or worm-bitten leftovers. Whole ears, bundled and wrapped like a blessing. Yellow, red, mottled brown. It doesn't even look real at first. Like something carved from stone and left in a museum. In return, your aunt offers smoked fish, a jar of crushed berries, and a folded pouch of dried wild greens. You half expect them to laugh. But they don't. They nod. Thank her. Then you all sit by the fire like you're not just trying not to cry over corn. They stay for hours, maybe longer. It's hard to keep track. Time goes weird when there's stories involved. You hear about other camps, farther upriver, ones that didn't make it, ones that barely did, ones where a whole family lived off frogs for 2 months straight. Everyone nods like that's normal, because it is. And then someone starts talking about last spring, the one before the hunger got bad. And something strange happens. Someone laughs, not in a mean way, not bitter, just soft, like the memory of enough food has finally aged into something survivable. The woman in the traveling group pulls out a small pouch and shakes something into her hand. Seeds. She rolls them between her fingers, and tells your aunt they're from a different kind of squash. Grows low, wide, tough skin. Keeps well. You all lean in like she just recited a sacred text. She lets you hold one. You turn it over, feeling its weight, imagining it months from now, split open, roasted, shared around the fire with greasy fingers and no apologies. You want that. Desperately. So you thank her. You thank her like she gave you a second chance at something you didn't know you were still allowed to hope for. That night, you eat together. Everyone. Travelers, locals, elders, kids. You dig out the good bowls, the least burned ones. You stir the stew 3 times, add dried mushrooms, and taste it twice before letting anyone near it. You don't sit down right away. You watch them eat first. The way they chew, the way they exhale afterward, the way their shoulders finally drop. And then, finally, you eat too. And it's good. Not just edible, not just not awful. Good. There's salt and smoke and a tiny bit of crunch from a wild root someone sliced too thick. The broth is oily in a way that coats your tongue and makes your chest feel warm. You take another bite, then another, and for once, you're not eating to stay alive. You're eating because it feels good to share something you made. You're eating because it reminds you you're still human. You're eating because for the first time in a long, long time, you want to. Later, you sit beside the fire with a full belly and sore feet, and the sounds of other people breathing near you. That's the part you didn't realize you missed. Not the food, not the warmth, the together. You fall asleep before the fire burns low. No panic, no stomach pain, no shame, just a dull ache in your legs and a slow burn behind your eyes and the smell of cooked squash lingering in your blanket. And for now, that's enough. Early summer comes quietly. No trumpets, no grand declarations, just a little more green every day. A few extra birds singing at dawn. That soft, heavy warmth that settles into the air and stays there, like the earth finally decided to exhale. You wake up sticky and itchy and a little too warm, but you don't complain, because warm means growing. Warm means food. Your job shifts. No more scraping frost off baskets or huddling by the fire with a cracked spoon and a half-cooked root. Now it's about gathering, drying, teaching. You know how to spot the good greens now, the ones that don't twist your stomach or send you running into the woods for half a day. You can tell which stems will wilt in a basket and which ones will hold up through smoking and storage. You've got a rhythm, and it feels weird, like your body doesn't fully trust it yet, like some part of your brain is still standing in the snow, clutching an empty bowl. But the field says otherwise. The squash vines are curling. The corn is shooting up. The beans are wrapping around the stalks like they know what they're doing. You stand out there some mornings and just watch, not working, not fixing, just staring at plants like they're a miracle. Because they are. The air smells different now, not like desperation, not like smoke and rot. It smells like sweat and dirt and crushed leaves. It smells like life. You sit with the kids under the trees and show them how to mash berries the right way, how to string fish to dry, how to tell the difference between a healing root and a poisonous lie. They listen. Mostly. One of them spills mashed berries on their legs and spends the rest of the day stained purple. You laugh. They glare at you with the full rage of someone who thinks they'll never recover. You offer them a stick of dried meat and they forgive you instantly. Food is still work, still pressure. But it's not a punishment anymore. You're allowed to enjoy it. That's the strangest part. You roast meat over coals and lick your fingers. You pick greens straight from the edge of the woods and pop them into your mouth without even washing them. You drink cold water and don't think about whether it will make you sick. You sit by the fire after dinner, belly full, and tell stories without watching the sky like it's about to drop. One night, your cousin gets bold and makes something new. Mashes root with fish and herbs and a tiny bit of bark ash for taste. It's weird. It's weird. But it's not bad. And you eat the whole thing. You even ask for more. You lie back afterward and stare at the sky. The stars are out. Your breath is slow. You think, for the first time in a long time, I could do this. Not just survive. Live. Actually live. With food that doesn't hurt. With people who laugh. With plans that go farther than next week. You're not naive. You know the cold will come back. The hunger too, maybe. But next time, you'll be ready. Not just with storage, but with memory. With the proof that things grow back. That joy returns. That even after the worst winter of your life, your hands still know how to cook.